Warning, this video contains spoilers for The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 1, and the entire Last of Us Part 1 game. By most accounts, the premiere of HBO's The Last of Us was a slam dunk in the eyes of longtime fans of the game. But what crucial detail from the game got left out? The Last of Us creator Neil Druckmann told Nerd Reactor that the priority of the game's story was to explore the relationship between its two central characters, Ellie and Joel. Druckmann and his team wanted to see if they could successfully convince players that two characters who are strangers to one another at the start of the game could grow to care for one another immensely by the end. Thanks to the immersive gameplay and the intense narrative the writers inflict upon the pair, they succeeded by all accounts. Without the interactive aspect of gameplay to rope viewers in, The Last of Us showrunners were always going to need to make significant changes to achieve the same effect. To Druckmann and series co-creator Craig Mazin's credit, many of the changes showcased in the premiere all but prove that no one besides them could craft an adaptation so lovingly faithful in its deviation and expansion. However, certain changes we witness in the pilot could threaten the integrity of the project altogether. Despite the game's heavy reliance on relationships, it seems that the writers of the show decided to heavily alter one of the central opening plot points, the relationship between Ellie and Marlene. While their friendship may seem inconsequential to what Joel and Ellie develop throughout the game, diminishing it gravely undermines elements of Druckmann's original story, especially its infamous climax. In the video game, the player is introduced to Ellie in a shocking yet effective way. As Joel carries a critically injured Marlene into her apartment, Ellie lunges from behind the door with a small knife to protect her, emitting her iconic first line.
Away from me!
This line of dialogue is key because it clarifies that Ellie is acting out of concern for her friend, rather than self-preservation. In this scene, Neil Druckmann quickly establishes Ellie as brave, selfless, and caring, while implying that Marlene is a reliable caregiver. To players who have so far experienced nothing but selfish survivalism, this dynamic introduces Marlene and Ellie as refreshing figures of hope. While the video game accomplishes all this in a matter of seconds, the series spends roughly 6 minutes without revealing much about Ellie's genuine personality. Any semblance of their friendship has been erased, and without it, both characters are indistinguishable from everyone else. It's revealed shortly into the game that Marlene has been caring for Ellie since her mother passed away. As such, it can be inferred that she's been more or less raised on the ideology of the Fireflies. Though she claims not to be an official member, it's clear that Ellie believes in what they stand for. Arguably, the most damaging aspect of Marlene and Ellie's altered history for the TV series is that Ellie no longer has a personal stake in the Fireflies' cause. Without this investment, it's hard to understand why she agrees to go with Joel when she very clearly wants to be left to her own devices. While in the video game she fights through enemies for a future that she has clear, unwavering, and optimistic faith in, she seems to trudge along in the series solely out of a sense of obligation. It already seems as though the writers will eventually try to pin Ellie's conviction on an unseen history with Marlene or something to do with her mother. In either case, it's a shame if a series with so much screen time has to rely on off-screen events and interactions to motivate one of its central protagonists. What really sets The Last of Us apart is that it manages to be both emotionally arresting and dramatically surprising all at once. Neil Druckmann's establishment of Marlene as a reliable caregiver not only helps players empathize with her as a character, it also slyly conceals the game's final twist. Marlene is immediately introduced as a hardened revolutionary who will risk anything for her cause. Like any good storyteller, Druckmann lays his cards on the table from the start, but he still manages to surprise audiences at the story's conclusion without sacrificing anything he's built previously. Druckmann humanizes his characters so thoroughly you almost forget extinction looms just over the horizon. Marlene is quite refreshingly presented as a hopeful figure in a bleak future, by making her a reliable character with a deep emotional attachment to Ellie and seemingly just goals. Players are primed to expect what she'll do to see those goals through. Neil Druckmann recently told The New Yorker that he views The Last of Us as an exploration of the limits of the unconditional love a parent has for their child. For the climax of this exploration to be satisfying, Joel and Marlene need to have one thing in common by the time they see each other again in Salt Lake City. They both need to love Ellie like a daughter. In the game, it's clear Marlene's affection for Ellie is strong and long-standing.
But whatever it is you think you're going through right now is nothing to what I have been through. I knew her since she was born.
In the series, however, Ellie is essentially Marlene's prisoner. The drama of the game's finale is derived from the similarity in how Marlene and Joel feel about Ellie. It creates this idea that with the right argument, one of them could realistically persuade the other. In the series, since Ellie has only known Marlene for a day or two, it's hard to imagine the writers achieving the same level of payoff. Marlene is a soldier, not a parent. Of course, her treatment of Ellie would differ from Joel's. In this context, the conflict shifts from a contest of family to one of ideology. Despite the missing setup of Marlene and Ellie's history, it's still possible that the HBO series could pull off a satisfying finale even with their lacking relationship. Aside from Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin's well-established talents as storytellers and Bella Ramsey and Merle Dandridge's exceptional performances as their respective characters, the show has proven its ability to offer something new. What they've built so far may not work especially well for the game's climax, but perhaps it will be perfectly suited to some new twist they've taken for the series. After all, no show could ever be a one-to-one adaptation of the game's original story arc. There's also a possibility that future episodes will give Marlene and Ellie's relationship more texture, giving the final act the mutual heartbreak it desperately needs.